Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking out time. This is what I call TGIF. Thank God it's Friday, but the restaurant's closed, but our food for thought is open. So that's what this particular event is going to be. And I am very happy to welcome you all. And for a formal welcome, I would now ask Ramesh to do the introductions and get things going as a moderator.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Ramesh. I'm from Calcutta. So as we all know that India has a long tradition of philanthropy, and various religions in our country has preached us about the core value of CSR. What is rather than what we call just uphold the dharma, the path of dharma for your business, be it the Vedas, be it the religion of Islam or the Sikhism. So to enlighten us on the concept of CSR and the inclusive growth story, today we have amongst us Dr. Swati Padoshi. Dr. Swati is a PhD, an MBA certified NLP practitioner, certified goal setting and life coach, and a certified corporate director. With 20 years in corporate and academia, she was recognized as Emerging Women Leadership in Education by Higher Education Forum 2018 for exemplary services in the field of research and development by JHT University in 2019. Further, she was also awarded the Best Women Director of the Year given under the International Inspirational Women Award 2020 by GISR Foundation. Dr. Swati is the director of MBA College of Mumbai University, a corporate behavioral trainer, and is also an author of several books. And she is the founder and felicitator of MoveYourCheese.com. She has been part of the main jury of ACEF Asia Awards, TBS Media India's Most Admirable Workplaces, and ACEF Brand Marketing and CSR Awards. She is associated with several social and professional institutes with interest in the emotional intelligence, workplace happiness, corporate governance, Porsche, and the blogging. So now I request Swati ji to please take the session moving forward from here on.
That was an amazing introduction. Thank you for humbling and blessing me. So how do you want me to start? What do you want me to ask? Because my opening remark when we talk of CSR is always that we have always been a country which looks towards philanthropy, towards charity, and then from there we came to corporate social responsibility. And somewhere we brought CSR into the gamut of legislation and laws, and kind of now we have somewhere lost track of where is this CSR actually going. My studies have told me that. When I was doing my research for PhD, one thing that actually hit me, on the face is that the minute something becomes a legislation, it just ceases to be a responsibility. We may be still using the term corporate social responsibility, but in the minds of corporate, it has become like a corporate tax liability. I'm just sharing what my research threw up on my face. And for some of the people who till then were happily doing it, it got converted to, oh God, I have to do it. So what changed, the paradigm shift when we are taking something which is has developed from philanthropy, charity, and in our Indian custom of, sharing with people, we always have believed inclusive. When that comes into the gamut of legislations and laws, we need to be more, a framework oriented as to how to start and how to end. So today when I look at CSR, one thing that I look is the inclusiveness factor has been somewhere subverted. So suddenly companies with a particular turnover have to spend particular amount on CSR, and they take up the easiest CSR activity that is possible. Because the legislation talks about the CSR, they don't talk about the monitoring part. They're not talking about that if a company, if 100 companies are spending on a girl child education, who is telling us the outcome of that spend? How does somebody who's a research-minded person like me, can I go online and type money spent on girl child education in rural sector, the outcome and the change? That data is not visible, not present. So somewhere where we were moving in a space of non-conformity to laws and legislation, from there we have moved to conformity to laws and legislation. Having said that, the framework has somewhere missed out on two very important verticals. Whenever law comes, most of us are HR. I'm an HR. I've been for an HR all my life. Even today, as director of an institution, my core area is HR. Anything we say in HR, anything that is not monitored cannot be, assessed and cannot be made better. So the moderation, the monitoring, and the framework, it has to be in place. That's my take on current CSR. There are two, three verticals which are heavily invested into. I mean, most of us when we do CSR, I think Atul sir is so senior and there are many senior members. When you look at CSR, either it's a girl child education, or either it's a rural health mission, or we are talking about rural women empowerment. I live in Mumbai, a city of don't have. I'm asking what is being done about that chawl, which is close to my house, where there are kids who don't get education. I'm asking what about the health of the maids who work in our house, who are again in that category which needs CSR. So how do we create a framework where everybody comes together and work on different verticals? Now the government, the NGOs, the corporates, the people who are interested in CSR have to take it to the level of a proper vertical of social inclusion and sustainability. It is no more a charity. It is no more a philanthropy. It has become a business model. We have gone from CSR to sustainability. It has become a model of sustainability. It's become a model of goodwill. So we need to now sit and ponder how do we put all these verticals in place that the money spent is being recorded, is being monitored, and at a grassroots level, what differentials are being created are informed, so that if that differential is there and if we have reached that target, maybe that money can go to some other vertical. So this is my simple take on the CSR, whatever research I do or whatever articles I read and whatever CSR I do with organizations. Ramesh ji, for you.
So, ma'am, what you exactly believe that how to bring the youngsters of the companies working in to be more enthusiastic to take the CSR thing forward, except only leaving it to the department of CSR of the company?
I have a very simple question to all of us here. How many of companies now are really enthusiastic about CSR? It's a very serious question. For a person who believes in CSR is the way the change can come. And CSR, see, we are at 130 in human index in world. We are ranked at 130. We are a country with huge population and huge resources. Some of our countrymen are in the world's top 4 list also. So it's not like resources are not there. The enthusiasm has to come from the company's vision, mission, and purpose. If I am a company owner today, I have to align with my vision that a part of my revenue should go. It should not be a part of my revenue has to go because there's a law in place. So that enthusiasm, the word you have used, has to be recalibrated into the systems of corporate India. So far, that calibration has gone all topsy-turvy. Whenever I talk, in general, when I'm talking to people about CSR who are not aware of the amount of effort that companies are putting in, a lot of efforts are happening, a lot of results are happening. They just give me a look and they smile and say, what CSR? So you get the mindset needs to change. The mindset needs to believe that change is happening. And what I fear is that due to lack of visibility of that change, the acceptance and confidence in people about CSR have gone on a little low level. That's my, take on this. The enthusiasm will only come when we start teaching young, like in my college, students are part of Rotary Club. They are all Rotractors. They have to do grassroots level for the society. So these young managers, when they go in any company, they are used to giving back to the society. So I believe out of 100 students of each batch, at least 20 would inculcate CSR in their system. They can become social ambassadors tomorrow because today we are exposing them to the power of social change. So enthusiasm building has to start young, from schools, from colleges, from societies, from within families. As parents, we need to also enlighten our kids about the power of that one thing that you do for the society and the subsequent.
So, ma'am, when we talk about our culture, in our culture, as I said, that the Vedas or the scriptures or the Vedic approach of CSR, which have been taught to us by our parents, that this is what, if you're earning an X amount, then X amount needs to be given for the charity or for the development of people like that. So how to bring in this Vedic concept into the company's CSR policies? So as I've read that you also believe and preach the workplace happiness, which for me, my practice of working is workplace spirituality, because I believe that unless and until a person is soulful and follow the practice of the basic human values, nothing can be done. So how to also preach the students as you are doing at your end, and for us who are recruiting people, and what kind of mechanism should be implemented in those places?
The easiest and most workable way, like I just shared, I have made it a habit to introduce my students to Rotary. We need to provide more clarity on the standardizing of CSR. Ambiguity is what is not helping us at all. We have to standardize our CSR in the Indian context. Every young manager, when they join a company and when they're taken through our orientation and induction program, needs to be given a CSR charter of that company. The company needs to say, hey, welcome, this is our CSR charter, this is our vision, this is our mission, this is our purpose, this is employee handbook, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, this is your policy, and this is the. So it has to be standardized. It has to be part of our day-to-day working system.
So as you said, that this is also one of the standard practices what all the companies are having, that they share the brochure of CSR. Recently, the time when I have taken up the HR, what we have done is we have included, like if we are having orientation for 2 months, and 1 week or 10 days you have to spend along with the CSR team and doing the work yourself on the ground.
We all are, HRs, and when I was talking to some students today of my institution, HR students basically, and I was telling them, when you join a company, what is your role? And I tell them, when you join a company, what is your role? I also talk about CSR. Let's take lead. Do understand. Don't look at it as charity. Look at it as a very important component of sustainability. Look at your social imprint as something that you want to put on your CV. So, the standardization, when I say the importance of CSR, if all corporates can, bring it and incorporate in their, employee system, it works wonders. So far, in my research, 20% companies have a CSR department. Rest it comes under HR. So HR is supposed to also look after the CSR. My take is, give it its due. It is something which is for your own sustainability. It is part of corporate governance. Any company which comes out with a public issue, what I have seen, before the public issue comes, for a month, you will see all their CSR activities on the television. So they first promote their CSR activities, get people to know how great they are, how goodwill-oriented they are, and then the public issue is launched. I have observed this for 3-4 companies. I'm not naming them. So when something is of this great importance to you, why not make it a culture? Why not make it a habit? Why not create a separate CSR department with its own budget, with its own deadlines, with its own policy, with its own monitoring system and audit, and a CSR report to be filed during the annual, general body meeting? So I said, we have to standardize it. We have to bring it into system as a very important vertical that companies need to take very seriously. May I just acknowledge Arijit sir's presence and thank him for bringing me onto this platform. Mojumdar sir is the reason I'm sitting here today. So sir, my respect and gratitude to you.
I wanted to share an experience from Kenya. I was in Barclays there, and I had a pretty big team of 5,000 odd people. And every year we used to have a MAD day. MAD day means Make a Difference Day.
Make a difference.
And on that, and it used to be on a Saturday. It was decided for the next year, the previous year itself, when is the MAD day going to be. And the rest of the time, I mean, every department, every kind of people, people would form some project groups, and they would actually go out hunting, looking for what can we do in the society, So the entire set of teams were all involved, and they would then raise funds. Some of them will put their own money in. And the bank's thing was, for every rupee every shilling, I mean, that's Kenyan currency, every shilling that you raise, we'll match it off with a similar amount. So if you raise 1 million shillings, then we'll give you 1 million shillings more. And then you go and execute the project. And then they would, of course, hunt for the senior guys, and being a senior there, I mean, they would would get some 5-6 projects, and they would kind of get me onto it. Look, you come with us. Last year you went with somebody else, and this and that. And right from the top guy, MD, to the to the PN in that place would be all involved. And on that particular day, that particular Saturday, we would all go. I mean, only the branches used to be functioning, and even the customers used to know. Today, if you have a problem in service, it's because the entire team has gone to do CSR. And we would go across, and I've had some pleasant experiences. Like I went to a place where there were 42 orphans. So these are very small projects, but it's like make a difference, that is the whole scene.
Yes,
So it was a
absolutely.
3-bedroom kind of a flat, and there were 42 children were there, and all the 42 had their mothers either having HIV affected, either they were orphans, or the mother was in some bad shape somewhere, and the child was being taken care of. And unfortunately, there was a fire in one of the rooms, and one of the kids who was also deaf and mute actually died in that fire. And that whole room got charred and become black. So we had gone there, and of course, we didn't know how to put in beams and create the door again. So we took a carpenter. We hired a carpenter. We paid him for the money that was raised, and I had actually gone and painted the walls. The people painted the windows, etc. Everything was done by hand. It was not supervising. You had to get your hands dirty, and you had to do something. We took food along. We took a TV along. We took some CDs across. Showed them some Tom and Jerry movies out there. So it was just for that one day. Even for that one day, it matters a lot. You can't say to her who will show them
That
TV
is
and so that was the culture that happened in the entire bank itself. And I thought that was a really great idea on a single day. I mean, the millions that were spent on that, but the impact, or forget the impact also, it was just the satisfaction that you get in your own mind and heart that really created a big difference in the society. And what most companies want to do is the customers should appreciate these kind of things. It's not the amount that is spent, but look, this is happening. And people used to actually, some of the customers would come with us. Okay, look, you're going, we'll also come with you. So there were at least some 50, 60 projects that were being done in the whole of Kenya. Kenya is a pretty small place compared to India, but it was a big success, and it happens every year. So I thought something like that should be practiced in India too.
yes, yes,
And it will make as I said, make a difference day. It's a mad day. So I just thought
Right.
I'd put that forward. How would that kind of work in India? And you're the expert. So, tell us more if you can on how such thing can work or may not work.
No, we all are typically very award reward oriented people. We have yet to reach the stage of self actualization when we get this, Atma ka sukh mil gaya because we helped someone. Let's be very honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As a society, we have been brought up in a way that we are very, carrot and stick story, reward award system. So when I say that we have to standardize it and bring it into a system, we also have to give appreciation. The appreciation sometimes works magic in, connecting people. And once they get hooked onto the process, they start enjoying it. And that is when actual change comes, when you don't, whether you appreciate, you award, reward, yet they will come and do it, because then they go to the phase of self-actualization, of actually starting to enjoy it. It will be novice on any of our parts to say that suddenly a youngster of 20-year-old has this calling of serving the society. That usually doesn't happen. We have to groom them, mentor them, and imbibe in them the pleasure of getting, that changing a person, like Sir was sharing, the pleasure of doing something. Once they do it for some time, then they adopt it. And then they happily adopt it. They don't wait for any kind of appreciation or reward award. So we have to also be mindful of the fact that it's a culture which has to be built up with a lot of, other factors involved.
In fact, that's where we used to make it part of the appraisal process also. If you haven't participated in a math day, then that goes against you. And people, I mean, whether that is a carrot and stick policy or whatever, but the fact of the matter is people used to come to that place, and they really, and the group thing worked, So it's not like the project thing. Yeah, one guy works and two guys sleep on the side. No, it was like bringing everybody together. And it's a pretty poor country in Kenya. I used to be very scared. Okay, look, it's not a very safe country also. So I didn't want to kind of go there
Yeah.
and get mugged somewhere on the way. But these guys would take care of the entire stuff all through. And what this has led to is another very a fascinating thing called voluntourism. So these are people who, I mean, the richy riches who come from wherever, whichever place they've got big fat checks, they would come to Kenya, stay in a five-star, and the hotel would arrange for an orphanage or a woman's home or an old age home, some place where these people will then go and spend the day and come back, and again relax in their five-star comfort. But what they used to get out of that is it has become, let's say, a way of tourism by which you can do something for the society and spend your money wisely and still have your five-star comforts. And plus, you don't get into a place which is maybe not hygienic. So all that hotel, all the hotel would take care of such in the surroundings being relatively good enough not to affect somebody's health. So that was the whole purpose. And so it has become a very big industry in itself. So people land up in Kenya for a week, do some 3 days of this social service kind of work, go and look up the game parks and then go back. And the money is well spent.
So, sir, similar concept we have in India also. I think somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, a friend of mine has started the Madman's Farm. So the Madman's Farm is you go there on your leisure trip, you grow your own vegetables, you cook your own food, you do your own farming, and you take care of the property, the land yourself. So and to stay with the villagers, milking the cow and things like that. So that is also one concept they have started. I don't know how it's running on. But.
Yeah. Swati, I just another question for you. I mean, with this CSR bit, I mean, I do agree that it's becoming more of a legislation thing, and people or other companies or corporates are trying to show off in some way or form that 2% has been spent so that the Ministry of Corporate Affairs doesn't come on them big time. I mean, I'm told Ministry of Corporate Affairs has sent out some 5,000 letters because the CSR has not been spent properly, and now they're trying to, all of them trying to get a response to that rather than absorb that bit of information coming through. So when it comes to really dealing with the corporate at the top level, I mean, everybody's scared about not being in the right place, and when these kind of things are put on. So, what should be the approach there? I mean, we are now talking of B2B rather than a B2C kind of a scene. So, what should the approach be there?
My take on it is very simple, sir. The minute we standardize and the minute the framework is in place, the boardrooms will decide the CSR policy where they also benefit. Let's please understand. When we are spending money on any activity, even if it's a CSR activity, we are talking about something where the visibility as well as the transactional part of it has to be aligned with the vision, mission of the organization. You are also answerable to your stakeholders, your shareholders. There are many parts of a company's existence. So when I talk of shareholders, stakeholders, they are usually not very happy about their money being spent on somebody else. That's a big thing to explain to them. You know, in general body meetings, I have seen people raising objection to particular amount being spent on CSR. So we have to work out a model where the boardrooms become more empathetic to CSR, as it should align to their business proposition, their transactional space, as well as their philanthropy, charity, and their humane side of it. So it's something where we have to work on a socio-economic pattern, which is supportive of each other. It has to be a pattern whichever organization takes it up can then, very confidently say that it is a pattern which is not economically not viable. It is something which is related to their corporate governance. It is something which is part of sustainability model. At the same time, it is also a very important strategic part of their business alignment. So far we have been talking about socio. We have to somewhere start building up a new framework of socio-economic and industrial development together. Because at the end of the day, when I look at CSR in terms of rural education, whatever, my due respect and gratitude to all the organizations who are doing it. Having said that, we also have to look at job creation, employability skills, upskilling of organizations. These are important CSR activities if you look at it in the urban context. So it has to be a economic and industrial correlation framework which will work in
Just
the
a
boardroom.
second. Hello, sir.
And with the
Namaste.
stakeholders and with the
Hello,
shareholders.
Anna.
They have to be given their due
లేదు
respect
పర్వాలేదు పర్లేదు జూమ్లో ఉన్నాను
about CSR.
పక్కొచ్చాను సార్ చెప్పండి.
I hope, Atul sir, I
Yeah.
answered the question correctly.
అవునండి.
I'm just wondering if we were to be doing this at the government level, which ministry should do it, and how should this be taken forward? If you were to make a suggestion
So
to.
I genuinely believe, and I'm quite, ideological about it, that corporate governance ministry needs to make a CSR government national body of CSR, which creates a platform where who is aligned with which vertical, so that they know these are the 12 verticals, 10 companies in this, 5 in this, 6 in this number, the amount spent, the return, so they map it. So it has to be a very, very audit data driven exercise. It has to be a national level organization which is exclusive looking into the CSR spent, return, monitoring, and alignment with social, educational, industrial, economic, and environmental and health issues that our country is going through at the moment.
Ramesh, any questions, please?
Yeah, sir. There is a question from Ms. Seetal Mistry. The question is your views on role of academic institution in integrating CSR and sustainability into course curriculum.
Wonderful, Sheetalji. That's a wonderful question, and I have a wonderful practical answer which I have been practicing. I created a cell way back in 2014 in my MBA college known as ISR, Institutional Social Responsibility. And like I was sharing before, that for everything a reward and award system is important. So I told all my students that this is a 100-mark practical paper. Internal 100 marks. It's not university. I'm doing it for you. I'm your guide. I'm your mentor, and I'm the whole and soul when it comes to this particular department. You pick what CSR activity you are going to align yourself for the next 2 years. Tell me today your agenda, your focus. Where do you want to reach in 2 years? Post that, every 3 months, give me a written report of what have you done to reach your goal. And it worked fantastic, sir. Some of my students who were over enthusiastic actually adopted a Adivasi village near Pend, you must be knowing, near Mumbai. And they actually adopted, they used to go every weekend. They used to teach the kids there. They used to learn Varli painting. Then they started bringing the Varli art and selling it in various places in Navi Mumbai. So you can integrate. If the intent is there and your passion for doing it, education is what can actually align the young minds towards CSR in a very beautiful and a very effective way. Because most of us, in all our states, there is this rural pocket very close to where we live, just you step 30 kilometers away and there is a beautiful rural setup. They have their own culture, they have their own art, they have their own, systems which they are unable to bring to the market. Like I said, Varli painting, I mean, Atul sir will agree with me. Bharatpur has a very beautiful, glass work. They do it on clothes. And one of my institutions in Gurgaon that I was mentoring for, they created this for their students, and their students started bringing that artwork and selling in Delhi Haat. So they would put a stall in Delhi Haat and sell the product, and whatever proceeds, they'll just take some part on the transportation and give the rest to the villagers. There are many things that youngsters and students can do. Many things.
Ma'am, there is one more question from Indranilda. What are the challenges in this challenge of executing agency of CSR initiative? Should it be exercised internally or outsourced?
Indranilda, thank you for that. The challenges is what I started by saying, that we have to take CSR seriously. It has to be imbibed in our culture first. We have never thought of creating a CSR department in 80% of companies. So it is internal. It's very internal to us. So before I say that the government state creates a national body of CSR, I would say let's all HRs pledge to create a CSR department in our own companies first. Give it a manager, give it a line, give it a shape, and then we can look up to the government. So these are two simultaneous internal and external exercises which can concurrently work. So the day all organizations who are spending on CSR has a dedicated CSR department with a CC, chief CSR officer in place, CCO, we are sorted. That is when government will also take the corporate seriously in their intent of a national body. So far, we have been flip-flopping here and there and somehow sustaining. Now we can give a complete structure within the organization and then go to government through NGOs and other stakeholders to demand for a platform that can bring CSR together. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, madam. Actually, in the initial part, you were focusing on the strategic CSR. You were talking about that. Okay. To my understanding, I work with hills, and I had been to different part of the Darjeeling hills, and I've seen the issues. To my understanding, it should be planned internally. Yes. Because ultimately, since you've talked about the chartered of CSR, and again the questions of when you are opting for an agency, the capacity or executing capability of that particular agency, whether that is standing or not, that becomes a big challenge. Okay, and because most of them these are NGOs functionings for some kind of bigger picture, but at the time of execution, there is quite a flip side of the whole issue. So that creates a problem. But again, as you understand that this is when you are working with a big corporate, might be you will be having a setup to monitor this activity to take the audit works. But when you are talking about execution and reaching out to the underprivileged society class of the section of the society, that becomes a big challenge. So there is always a disconnect in expectation and executions. How to redress this issue? How best we can deal this issue?
Indranil sir said something which I have worked on, the challenges or the resources. We have the resources. We need to mold the resources with our business focus. I would go by the example of what Atul sir was sharing earlier. It is not in a day that Rome was built. And CSR still is a very ambiguous term. A lot of people even in corporate do not understand what we are all talking about. So we have to create that right, how do I say, that environment where the resources join. When I got very passionate about CSR, I used my resource at hand, and those that are my students. It also so happened that I got very upset about seeing people on the road sleeping and all, and then I initiated a roti bank in my area where the housewives joined in. So resources are all around us. We have to just get out of our offices and just focus on who could be our resource. And that will only work when we are clear on what activity are we involved with. And it amazes me today that I have disassociated from that roti bank project because of my work pressures. It's still going on. A couple of my friends, every day in the night, they put everything left over from the society and nearby societies, go to the, all the signals, and we have a 1.5 kilometer stretch of a road, and they deliver. Even in COVID, they have done with that with police permission. So it's just that whatever we are thinking of creating, how well defined is it? And what are the resources which we are not looking at? We get very used to looking at the inside resource, so this is my manager, this is my employee. I would rather say, let's open up the focus. Maybe Atul sir's some nephew or niece may be interested in CSR. Rope them in. We have to make a bigger pool of resource. We have to make a bigger pool of people who align with what we actually are planning to execute or what we actually want to execute. That I have worked on, and it really, really works wonderful. So when my students were less in number, I would talk to other directors and get students from their institute. I didn't let it just stop because my resource was suddenly at a low level. So I added up resource from other sectors. Then I spoke to my friends' kids, roped them in. So we have to do a resource pooling. That's very, very important that we create a resource pooling. And that could be within our companies, within our society, within our area of friendship, within our relatives also. And we have to align it what thought we are going with. That's what I feel.
Hello, Dr. Swati. I'm also from, I'm Dr. Tanya, more or less in the same field of academics with MBA institutes and all. So, based on my experience of last 20 years, what I have observed, it is so nice to see in your, university college, you start up with Rotary initiative and all. But I haven't come across any place where they have any specific budget for, CSR and then structured approach towards that. So even some occasions we even in some occasion we student used to collect some subscriptions and contribution and give some chocolates or something on Diwali and something, but that is not a very structured and very end-to-end meeting any purpose. It's just a timing. We cannot able to strike the chord where academics came inside to bring some meaningful changes in the society in the part of the CSO. So I believe, don't you think any directives like, from AICT or UGC somewhere, this universities getting registered from Private Universities Act or Nationalized Universities Act, some directive somewhere to put some percentage of amount in the budget allocations of the management institutes, especially management institute, because I am related to management institute. This lacuna, I always felt, why not CSR? Why always management institute feel like, oh no, we are not the money making academic institute, not the money making institution. Now, if you do CSR,
I have a very nice thing to share with you. My institute did not give me anything for this. They had a very sweet answer to it. It's your ISR, you manage it. So I sat down on my desk and thought for 2-3 days how to pull it off, because kids would ask for petrol reimbursement, kids would ask for refreshment reimbursement. And then luckily, I think I was very lucky that Mumbai University has a subject known as business ethics and corporate governance.
Yeah, it is the.
What I finally did, I converted that entire subject into practical application.
Exactly.
And I told them that, out of the internal marks, so you have 60% for the written and 40% for the internal. The entire 40% is your practicals. They forgot the petrol expenses. They forgot the refreshment expenses. They wanted that 40 marks, which was internal. That was the first magic. Second, what was that once they went and once they started talking, they developed an affinity. For them, it became like a weekend getaway. They used to come and say, ma'am, we look forward to Sunday when we can all take our bikes and go here and go there. And, the villagers cook fantastic food and we enjoy it. So then after 4 or 5 weeks, they started enjoying these trips. And some of them came back and told me, even if you don't give us the 40 marks, we are going to continue doing it. So like I said, we have to take them there first. Let them see that. So out of the kids, almost 70% started enjoying the exercise. 30% still did it for the 40 marks. Having said that, I got my results this way also, that way also. Because there was a subject and I could convert it, and that is my discretion of how to use my 40 marks. I think I was able to pull it off, doctor, honestly speaking. And like you said, yes, AICT has already brought a notification a couple of days back about, and let me also bring to point for people who are not from academics, I think doctor would know. We have a process of NAC, which is accreditation. And doctor, in NAC, you have 5 points for your social outreach program. If you want to have a good NAC score, you should have a good social outreach program. That is something you can always talk to your, management upon, that if 5 marks are there, which makes a lot of difference. So there are methodologies within the system which we need to study, understand, and then introduce. Now, AICT has also brought in a notification, I think I read about a month back, where they said that students have to be exposed to, social activities. That has come. How we as directors or faculty members or passionate, educationists convert it into taking to our students and getting results, doctor, probably you can give me a call and I can tell you the trick. How to crack these notifications and convert it into benefit for you.
Exactly. Students always love those work, but I most of the time I found it doesn't meeting the end result. If there is any vocational awareness could be done, if we can make this villagers self-reliant, self-driven, then it would make some sense. Barely going, doing some, distributing something, at times the larger perspective, we are not able to meet to some extent.
It takes time. It takes time. It takes a lot of mental conditioning. And also as a faculty, I told myself that results will be hardly 50%. I was already ready to accept that 50% would just do it for 40 marks and then they will stop doing it. So when I got a 70% result, it was a bonus to me. So it encouraged me to keep doing it. I never look at 100% conversion or 100% result and that 100% of my students will become socially responsible. Like I always believe that one person change for me is good enough. So that one person has the capability to change another one person. So it's a chain reaction for me. So out of my students, I'm always ready for even 10 take it up. I'm good to go because those 10 will pass to another 10. So now it becomes 20 and so on and so forth. You know, the chain of change continues. That's my belief system.
Good, ma'am. So last college also has started with social internship in the same area. So to make a meaningful contribution. Anyway, ma'am, thanks for your answer.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Ma'am, there is one more question from Rajiv Kumarji. The question is, the new buzzword is ESG, environment, sustainability and governance. So how can the emphasis of ESG factors to be promoted by the government and industry bodies?
So we have already started. Good evening, Rajiv ji, and thank you for that question. So we have already seen a movement from fuel efficient cars to, electric cars. Environmental, the part, I'm just sharing what the industry and the government is working together on. So from fuel to electric cars. The second thing where I've seen industry being very, very proactive is the packaging industry. Suddenly, the methodology of packaging has changed by quantum. Government has brought certain rules and regulations about packaging and the industry has been equally proactive. Having said that, it's very easy for a high investment industry to get returns on this change. For others, if I may say so, for MSMEs, for SMEs, for small ventures to adopt the government changes to support the concept of ESG, we have to create a package of how their commercial viability without being disturbed, they can inculcate the changes. These changes are not non-expensive or easy. When I'm talking about packaging, I'm aware of the packaging industry because I have friends there and they said that we had to throw away raw material worth crores, doctor. And that was just pure loss. We don't take insurance for the raw material being thrown away. Having said that, some of them, which are the big guns, they survive because they have a contingency plan in place. They have a contingency financial support system. The small ones are struggling to cope with these changes. So here is where our industrial bodies like IMC, CII, there's so many of them, can play a very proactive role like they did in the COVID time of going to the government for packages for MSMEs, short, small turnover companies, entrepreneurial companies, startup companies. It has to be researched, the impact of this change. And these bodies, what do we call these business bodies or these confederations, consortiums, have to make a representation to the government on how can there be an economic package for the losses which probably these companies will face if they align themselves with ESG and then they adopt the changing system of working, is what I can say. Rajiv ji, I hope it answers your question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swati. It's been very nicely explained. A supplementary question is on the code of ethics on governance issues. I mean, you see the NPA problem that is occurring across the country. You also see how large corporates which also have a code of conduct have failed in real terms in kind of implementing their codes. How do you think that corporate India should be instigated to have a better moral fiber or be more responsible?
Wonderful. Sir, you have just asked a question which is very close to my heart. I'll tell you why. I'm a certified corporate director. I'm an independent director. So I can be on boards of companies which very soon I'm planning to embark on that journey too. The first change was the change in policy where independent directors are concerned. See, sometimes what happens that these kind of problems or fallacies or financial misconduct are missed by, the people who should have noticed it, the audit committee, and there are many, many people who noticed. So one thing I have seen, which I'm quite sure is going to take care of the shareholders, the stakeholders, which again is about inclusive growth of businesses in alignment with their, practice of following the best practices. So independent directors, governing bodies have to play a more proactive role into this whole system of following the right corporate governance, so that today we are discussing inclusive growth, and inclusive growth also includes the stakeholders, shareholders, and public in general. It is not only rural and the not so uh, uh, empowered ones. So this thing has to go to a next level, which will take its own due course in time. I believe so.
There is one more question, ma'am, from Mr. Badrinath. The question is, how can we measure the efficiency of the CSR? Because it should not be a calendar activity, which few of the companies does, to capture pictures. If we speak of Eastern India, which areas or segment of the society to be touched for the better of the society?
So let me start by telling him thank you for the question, and I can very confidently answer on Eastern India because I'm from Bokaro Steel City. So I have lived in that part of the world for entire life. My family is still there, and my playground was Kolkata. So having said that, I'm from a steel city surrounded by collieries and coal fields and Adivasis. I have experienced the most backward and downtrodden society that still exists. When I go to the Adivasi belt in, in your Hazaribagh district or Ranchi district, or in the belt of Kharagpur, beyond Kharagpur, you have these belts, which we call as the people who are from that part of the country would know the red belt, as we used to call it at a particular time of frame of time. It is way far beyond any kind of development. So there has to be a concentrated effort by the stakeholders in that area, the steel plants, the Jamshedpur steel plant, Rourkela steel plant, Bokaro steel plant. These public limited big guns have to somewhere align their CSR activity into including these sections which are right at their doorstep. It's right there. So when I talk of these big guns who have the power, the capability, and the resources, we have to now align in into adopting things which are right there and bringing this social change and development and economical change into their system. One beautiful thing I saw in Bokaro recently when I had gone, I mean, it's been 2 years now, I saw a lot of ladies working on the petrol pumps. And out of inquisitiveness, I asked a girl that, how come you're working here? And she said, there is an employment scheme by the government and by, couple of NGOs and a particular company, I will not name it, which is based out of Kolkata, who are creating employability skill for us girls from the Adivasi belt. And that opened my eye to that there is a resource. Again, I would repeat, we have to align our own CSR capabilities and our own CSR philosophies to align with these belts and the people who live in these belts. Because resource is there, skill is there. We have to just upskill them and bring them into the mainstream of economic growth. That's my simplest submission on that. As far as the eastern part of the country is concerned, we have to believe that it's a place where there's a lot of sports people coming, so resilience is very high. There are people who are very strong in willpower, in physiology, very strong resource for any kind of industrial setup. We have to. And as far as your question about calendar and photo op is concerned, that is what I said a couple of minutes back, is that we have to decide our own policy of CSR, our own deadlines. What are we going to do? When are we going to do? Map it in the calendar. Somebody has to monitor and check. That one element which somehow always gets missed. So it is up to the company. If I made a CSR initiative for my students, I took time to check them every 3 months. Where have they reached? It was humongous to check files of 120 students. I chose to do it because monitoring is very important when we talk of CSR activities. So the companies have to choose to monitor, measure, give a feedback, and take the entire initiative forward in a more outcome and output driven manner. That's what I can say.
Nice explanation, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Entirely my pleasure.
And there is one more question from Mr. Amresh Saxena. The question is, the NGOs are extended arms of corporate, and government only thing is selection needs to be made carefully.
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Can I read it if it's okay with you?
Yes. It's in the chat box. NGOs are extended arm of corporate.
Yeah.
And government only thing is selection needs to be made carefully.
Yes, NGOs are extended arm of corporate, and we have to reach a stage where we have to decide on what kind of CSR we are doing and who we are going to align with. As far as government's role is concerned, let me be very honest to you, sir, and let me thank you for that question. They have a set of NGOs which are approved, and you can go ahead and do whatever you want to with whichever NGO. Again, I would reiterate that get your philosophy right and pick and choose the ones you feel are right. We should not be waiting for the government to, tell us which are the good ones or the bad ones. We need to do our homework. We need to do a lot of research on whom are we aligning with. And therefore, there is a very important concept I would bring to the notice of this platform. We have to do a social audit of the NGOs we are planning to align with. Just because someone tells that this is a very beautiful NGO and it's a Pegasus Award winner, it's a Golden Globe Award winner, and a Golden Peacock Award winner, and it's got a beautiful, glamorous site with all the film stars on that site, I don't take that as an NGO we should blindly align with. We have to do their audit report. We need to ask for their P&L, where have they posted it. We need to ask them, show us what work you have done. NGO audit, as I call it, a CSR audit, a green audit, a governance audit, has to be, done from the corporate end too. We as corporates need to figure out who are we aligning with. Go online, everything is available online. Type controversies and that NGO's name, you will get a list of controversies that NGO has been involved with. Do a background study, do a check who you are planning to make your CSR, governance and sustainability partner, rather than just going by the name and what is being said either by government or either by Dr. Swati Padochi or either by anyone for that matter. It's your project, you need to be with the right partner, because it's very important to have the right partner for the execution and the outcome to be effective and efficient. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, Sarjit sir, definitely you can.
Do you think the government mandate vis-a-vis the CSR funding is well spent by the industrial organization?
I have a very unique experience, if I may share with this August forum. When I was doing my PhD research, that was when this 2% had come into play. And I'm very lucky. I have 3 very powerful industrial belts near my place. We have Taloja, we have Mahape, and then we have Thane Belapur belt. I almost did research in industrial, like sir said, industrial pharma company, chemical companies. So these are all industrial, as we call, pro-industrial companies. And I did research with 100 of them. And the funniest part is almost 80 of them said that we were spending 7%, we have come down to 2%. And then I asked the question that, why? So they very nicely said, if 2% is going to get the certificate that we are doing enough, why waste that other 5% that we can do something else with? And then I asked them, what were you spending the 7% on, and why you are coming down to 2%? Will it not impact the functioning? And they were like, we were spending 7% because we never thought that we can survive in less also. And as an industrial unit, we kind of felt like, we are in high risk zone. All these pharmaceutical dye making companies, they are a high risk job. And they thought that to cut down on the high risk factors that we are doing here, the harm we are, that was a word used. The harm probably our waste does to the environment, we can balance it out by doing something for the society. And when we realized that we can get away with 2%, why spend that other 5%? So this was my conversation with some very big companies that I had. Though I'm very happy to see that they did not come down to 2%, they continued with whatever they were spending. One thought that they all had in common, that some practices we have been following are not environmental conducive. Our employees are exposed to things which may be harmful to their health. So somewhere on a moral ground, ethical ground, human ground, doing CSR gives us that courage and that peace of giving back to society. That was, unanimous in what I spoke to them on, Arjit sir, about the industries and how they align with their CSR act.
Another question is that, you see, I understand government is looking seriously as to the spending of CSR amount by some organizations who are spending. Hello?
Your voice, am I hearing it low or sir's voice is low? Because I'm unable to hear it.
Can you hear me?
Now, sir, now I can.
What I was saying that I understand that government is looking seriously as to the spending of CSR amount by some organizations who are spending towards quote unquote as a pet project of the organization without caring for the society. Especially we have seen, I'm sure you must have also seen this in the education sector. Now, as such, government is planning to come with ordinance to stop these nullified intentions or nullified investments. Any idea on this?
Sir, as far as nullified intentions are concerned, we will always have certain rule breakers. I go by that theory. I have very long back realized that we are living in a world which is driven by profit, by commercial interest, money interests everyone. For some it's less, for some it's more so. Breaking a law, tweaking a law, taking bypasses, going by the gray areas, and nullified intentions for me in the world where money is concerned is something which is part and parcel of being in the world of business. Having said that, government's intent of cross-checking, controlling will only suffice and will only sustain if, like I have been sharing, we have a very robust, very strong measuring and monitoring system. Because in our country, what happens that whenever we penalize someone for anything where there is the measurements and the monitoring mechanisms are not very, very well defined, they have the courts to go to, and then it becomes one mess and another mess and another mess, and it gets so prolonged that somehow we lose focus of what we were talking on. So first we need to think on how do we bring about a very measurable monitoring system, a robust, transparent measuring, let me add transparent there, measuring monitoring system where an Atul sir, a Swati, a Ramesh ji, a Arjit da, everybody can go online, click on a company, know what they have spent, where have they spent, how much result have they got, what changes they were able to make is available. So when we make that kind of monitoring, measuring transparently available where society as a whole starts judging the companies and their efforts, the nullified thing will automatically take a backseat. Because when we are talking to the world, we usually show the best. We don't want to show a dark side. And it's high time that CSR starts getting spoken to the world. When we are posting our annual returns in the newspapers and in social, on our website, after Cadbury report, Kumar Mangalam report, and all these governance changes, when that is the prerequisite, I feel time has come that this also becomes a prerequisite, that you post your CSR report on your website, on a national daily, and let everybody, if a person wants to invest in a company, they have to also see the CSR report before they invest in that company. That is when this transparency will cut down on any kind of, other practices that are going on. So that's what I feel.
I understand the government is looking very serious into this.
Yeah, may I just interject now? We're in the last phase of this discussion. We've got only 7 minutes left now. So, Ramesh, are there any more questions or shall I sum up?
There's one question which we can take, or we may send it separately to ma'am if required.
So may I just say something, Atul sir, with your due permission?
Yeah, sure.
A very close friend of mine and a very senior HR professional, Dr. Ashok Sahu, has joined this conversation when we started. I so want to acknowledge his presence because I had pinged him at 7:30 that, sir, I'm having this interview. And he promised me the minute I'm free, I will join. So Ashok Sahu, sir, I would really want to thank you for joining this conversation. He's a veteran in HR. he's somebody I look up to when it comes to HR. So thank you, Ashok Sahu sir. And one of my professors, Shankar Iyer, has also joined. So my humble thanks to him and everybody who has taken out time on a Friday evening to thank God it's Friday time. Thank you, everybody.
So thank you, Swati, for a very engaging discussion. CSR is something which is really very close to people's heart. And the important takeaways that I could take from what you said with your expertise and your past experience, of course, I mean, we are suffering because the data is not visible on impact, and that's leading to enthusiasm being dampened because people are not being able to see what's really happening and how the monies or the impact that's being made. And the legislation, I mean, we do talk about government, let's say, legislation, but whatever legislation is in force at this moment is trying to make companies think of CSR as a tax liability rather than a contribution towards society to make it better. And I think associated with that is the monitoring, moderating, and measuring framework in a transparent form. I think that's a very important thing that we need to put in place, not only from within the company, but outside the company, so that the society also gets to see what is happening. And you did mention about, when your kind of a public issue comes in, that a lot of photo ops happen and a lot of feverish activity happens to kind of cover the CSR bit. And only 20%, which is quite a disappointment, only 20% companies have a CSR department, and rest are, CSR is part of HR itself. I think that needs to change. And the socio-economic pattern that and the corporate governance and the strategic path which has to be followed by each company, I think that is very key to really taking it on a bigger scale, especially for the corporates that are listed. I think very important to really, I mean, when they talk about customers and when they talk about what the customer needs, I think one of the customer needs is that they want to be associated with an organization which is socially responsible. I think that's a personal takeaway that I had from my stint in Kenya, where the customers actually used to be very happy that their bank is really doing something for the society. And that brings in more customer loyalty than the amount of,
anything else.
Yeah, it's all put together.
So I shared, even before an IPO is launched, they for a month run all their CSR programs. So the goodwill is, right up here.
One of the important things that you mentioned about the resources have to be, they just kind of come about when you start a project, resources, and you mentioned about the Rotary Bank. Anyway, so resources can come in once you have the project defined. Obviously, the resources somehow come together. I think that's a very important thing. And I'm very happy to note about 40% internal marks at the institute level, at the education level. That's a very nice way of inculcating CSR spirit very early on. And the methodology of NAAC and the social outreach program, I think that should be, if nothing else, that should be, there's a bit of carrot and stick, but I think the stick also needs some bit of movement there in getting our educational institutes in shape to be able to create CSR with the CSR mindset. People come out from such institutes and get joined into big corporates. And I think we need to align CSR philosophy with people and NGOs, social audits of NGOs. That is also an important part to create this ecosystem. I think that is where we need to kind of now work towards creating this ecosystem, because bits and pieces, we all understand that these are important, but how do we bring it together? And you rightly mentioned that we need a national level body to kind of govern this CSR bit, which hasn't happened so far, and that's a pity. But I think overall, my biggest takeaway is that we are all Indians. We have in each one of us a seva bhav, and I think that seva bhav, it is properly utilized, whether you call it CSR, you call it philanthropy, or you just call it, giving out money for other people's upliftment. This is very important. I think people are wasting too much time putting money into temples and donations. It's high time that made that money work for society, especially where we are now going into in the next phase post-COVID. And if India has this opportunity to, let's say, compete or beat China on the international stage, I think CSR can play a very big part. That's the understanding I got from your overall session. And thank you very much for being there and sharing your views in a very open and
Thank you, everybody.
transparent
Thank
manner.
you so much.
And thanks, Ramesh, for being there. And thanks, Indranil, for initiating this season, for which you have made me the season host, as I am called. I'm very glad to have this responsibility. And thank you all for listening very patiently, dialing in twice. And have a good weekend. And thank you very much. Good night.